The following program may contain coarse language, violence, nudity, mature subject matter, or scenes which may not be suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back, everyone. What a night it's been. We've talked to Dave Combs about his song, Rachel. We spoke with Gwilda Wiyaka about death, dying, and ghosts. Last hour, Dr. David Gruder was talking to us about the sociological and business aspects of psychology. And this hour, we're going to be joined by Gary Smith, and we're going to be talking to Gary about books. In fact, Gary, first of all, welcome to the X Zone. Great seeing you. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Gary, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, please.
Well, I don't know quite where to start. I've had an eclectic kind of life. I started off as a laborer and ended up being a large electrical contractor throughout the United States. On retirement, I started writing, which was always a goal of mine. And in the last 7 years, I've written 7 books. I'm in the process of finishing an 8th book now. So
it's fascinating. I understand you're the author of the Warren Steelgrave mystery series.
Yes, that's I'm finishing a 7th book in that series now. The last book won the New York Big Book Award, National Award, which was very
congratulations.
Nice. Well,
congratulations, sir. What's it like being an author these days in the age of digital everything?
Yeah, it's very difficult. A lot of writers start off writing short stories, but because of so many magazines going out of print, because so much other entertainment, that to be able to write short stories, that talent has kind of gone away, and it's very difficult for those authors. Everything's going digital. I think my first book was out a week when I seen it for free all over the internet.
You're kidding.
No, no, and so yeah, so it's changed a lot, and it's even worse now. You almost have to produce it not only as a book or a hard copy or soft copy, to digitize it and have it as an ebook. And there's hints now that Amazon and people are going to start in large libraries where you can pay so much a month and you have access to all their ebook libraries. And so you kind of, as the writer, you kind of wonder if you're working for free to support these entities.
I was just going to ask you, what's in it for you now?
Well, I think for most writers, it's the writing. It's a way, I mean, you're kind of compelled internally to do that. And for me, every once in a while, I'll get an email from somebody and something I've written they'll mention it changed their life. It give them something to a different perspective. And so you write for those reasons, especially with this last book last year. It won a national award also. It was a book of short stories. And I was surprised how many, there seems to be a market out there for short stories. I mean, it was well received, and I've gotten more emails from readers on that particular book. One or two of the stories would touch their lives in some way, whether it was the story of the death of my son, or the story about a haunted house, or different. I mean, it was difficult to write because every week you're writing another story, different plot line, and you're condensing that all into maybe anywhere from 1,000 words to 15,000 words, and so it was pretty difficult to write. It was a great challenge for me.
Was that the biggest challenge you've faced so far?
I think the biggest challenge is I'm dyslexic. And so one of the reasons I never went to college, I was supposed to be the first one in our family to go to college.
Mhm.
I was sick of English. I didn't want to do no more. I didn't want to take any more English, and I fell in love with working out in the field as a construction worker. And so I took the path less traveled, as they say, and it did make all the difference in the world. To follow a passion. And
So how did you overcome this?
I don't think you do. As I got older, and read a lot about dyslexia and stuff, I realized that it's more or less a gift. I mean, although it was very difficult for me to read, I really started reading the classics in the 4th and 5th grade, and was always drawn to, I read the Canterbury Tales, I think, Chaucer, maybe the 5th grade. Shane, which he become my hero. I think I read that in the 5th or 6th grade. Breakfast at Tiffany's, and I enjoyed that writing. I mean, as those authors would write a story. So I think dyslexics just look differently on the world, and unfortunately, our school system is set up one size fits all, and if you don't fit in, then when I was in school, there was no such thing as HDD or any of this stuff, dyslexia. Either you passed or they held you back.
Yeah, exactly.
They held you back a grade, and there was none of this hoopla. And so I think as a dyslexic, you learn to compensate. You learn to be very intuitive. You learn, as I always say, they hate this word. I always say, well, in the 3rd grade and 4th grade, you learn to cheat, and I always got decent grades, and I figured a way around it. I have twin boys, and they're very, very dyslexic. They wanted to put them in special classes in the 3rd grade and stuff, and I just wouldn't allow it. And they told us that those boys would not read above the 5th grade level as adults. And they're 29 now, great careers. They're just finishing their master's because they wanted to pursue that. They needed a master's for their degrees. And so, they get it wrong all the time. I mean, we're individuals, and that's how you should pursue life.
Exactly. Can you share with us the most interesting story that occurred to you in the course of your career?
Well, it was a short story. I travel a lot in the motorhome with my small dog, and we were out at a place where I go to write, and this older couple, I'm watching across the way as he gets out of his motorhome, and he's hobbling around with a cane and trying to build a fire. And I'm thinking to myself, well, someday, very soon, that's going to maybe be me. And soon he beckoned us over, me and the dog over. He had a little dog with him to share the fire. And no sooner he got there, and this elderly woman, maybe he was like, I thought in his late 70s, come out wrapped in a blanket with a little dog sticking out the side of her head. And then another woman come out and sat down, and which I assume must have been his wife. She was younger, maybe in her late 60s. And I'm thinking, wow, this is kind of interesting. And she says, I see you have a dog. And I says, yes. So we travel with our pets too. She says, we travel with 2 dogs, 5 cats, and 8 turtles. And I'm looking at
turtles.
That was my reaction as I look at this trailer. And I'd been there 3 days, and I hadn't seen him bring out a cat box, or I hadn't seen him walk a dog. And I'm thinking to myself, you gotta be kidding me. And then I look over at the old lady, and she's kind of nodding with this grin with her hair kind of out, and this dog in it reminded me of like a 2-headed animal of some sort, But they ended up being the most interesting, intelligent people. And we sat around for an hour and had the best conversation. He had retired twice. He was managed one of the big colleges. He managed their foundation funds. She had worked in a bank, and they're just very interesting people. And so on the way back to our motorhome, I thought to myself, I got to write this up. So I wrote it up as a short story, and it's in this last book. And thought to myself, it's amazing how quickly we'll judge somebody without getting to know them, just because their lifestyle is different than ours and whatnot. We tend to pigeonhole them in a certain way, whether they're dyslexic or whether they ride in a small motor or in a small trailer with 8 turtles. It's just.
Did you ever see the turtles?
No.
Oh,
One of her big cats come out and jumped on the table, and it was huge.
Oh my gosh!
To check us out and enjoy the fire for a bit, but I don't know if she had them all in a box or.
More cans above the stove and turtle soup. Who knows, eh?
Who knows,
Yeah. Did you ever have writer's block when you were writing your books? And if so, how did you overcome it?
Well, I've been asked that on many interviews, and I have never had writer's block. And I think the reason being is I am dyslexic. And I've talked with a lot of other writers, of course, and many of them will outline the story. Many of them are scared of doing a novel because they'll just do novellas or something because they can't see their way clear to the end of the story. And I think they're being dyslexic. I don't plan a story. I just sit down and start writing. I never know where it's going or what it's going to be about. Tell them about 10 chapters in. I just focus on the characters in that chapter and what they're doing. And about the 3rd chapter, they take over and they're pretty much writing the story. And I'm just copying their actions. And so I think that's the reason why I haven't tried to overthink this too much. Raymond Chandler said that if you're in your head, you're not being creative. And I think that's some people tend to overthink what they're doing or where they're going or what they want to write about. And I think that's
a lot of people overthink life.
Yeah.
Day-to-day living. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You and I have to take a break. Please stand by, Gary. And Gary, I believe your website is, let me see here, GarySmithAuthor.com.
Yep.
Okay, great. Gary and I will be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. Welcome back, everyone. Gary Smith is our guest. And Gary, I understand for half the year you live in Italy.
Yeah, I'm here now. It's just now 7:15 in the morning here in Italy, and I live in a home that's was built around 1550. So it's got plenty of stories to tell. I talk about the presence in the house when I first moved in. And
share that with us. I'd love to hear it.
Well, it's in the book and as a short story called The Haunted House, and like most of the stuff I write, it's fictionalized but from true life. And when we bought the house, the upstairs we remodeled. It's pretty much 20th century, but downstairs we left it 16th century. And so I moved in the first. Was just finished, and I flew to Italy, and my cousin had built it or had remodeled it, and the wife was going to come in 2 weeks. Well, I'm upstairs, and because of jet lag and the time change, and I was tired, went to bed kind of early, but I was awakened around 2:00, and it sounded like somebody was walking around in the house downstairs. So I listened, and I could hear a presence, so I got up, turned on the lights, come downstairs, nothing. But the front door was unlocked, and I thought, gee, I'm the only American in this small town of 188 people. Maybe somebody's upset that I'm here and they're trying to scare me or something, The next night, Same thing, around 2:30 in the morning. I hear cabinets opening and closing. And I knew for sure I had locked the door. So I turn on all the lights. I come downstairs, nothing. And then from then on, about, I don't know, every 3 or 4 or 5 weeks or something like that, you hear something in the house. Something would be moved, that kind of thing. And I put a camera out on the front porch so that when I'm in America, if anybody's coming up to the front door, it would film them and alert me. Well, I'm in Hayward, California, the Bay Area, when my phone goes off, and I look, and it captured the presence on the porch floating around, and then it kind of took off. And this time back, I haven't had much going on. It never went upstairs, but I did catch it on film. So that's my real life ghost story.
So I would imagine you're a believer then.
Well, I never was a non-believer. I mean, this isn't the first time. I mean, on our honeymoon in an old mansion in New Orleans, we had a presence one night, and so never was a non-believer. But who can define it? But I did capture it. It's I sent it to some friends of mine that are really into this kind of thing. They said what I captured was an orb, whatever an orb is. And it come out of the house. It was floating around on the front porch, and then it took off. And so maybe it got tired of me being here. I mean.
So what part? Yeah, what part of Italy are you in?
Piemonte, north of Torino by about 45 kilometers, just at the base of the Alps.
What was your inspiration for moving to Italy?
Well, that was a story in itself. As a little boy, as I grew up, my grandmother would always say to me, when you go, they will know you. And, you play that stuff off, and because my grandfather was from a little village in Italy. And so
right.
All of a sudden I got to about middle age or so, and everybody in the family had passed. The elders had all passed, but they had given me all the stuff. My grandfather's trunk when he come to America, pictures of my great grandfather's mill, all this stuff. And so I got this hankering to go find out. And it's kind of a funny story. I was searching for about 6 or 8 weeks trying to find a small village, and I didn't know the name. I just knew the family name, and couldn't find it anywhere in Italy. Had all my grandfather's documentation, but when they would come, they would change their names or whatever. Americans would just spell it any way they could. They wouldn't argue. So it was our 20th wedding anniversary, and we were going to go back to New Orleans. I had the hotel book and everything, and I had like this calling to come find this place. It was overwhelming that I needed to go find this place. And lo and behold, I intersearched it, and I see this name in some records, and I said, I think that's the name of the village that they just transposed the numbers. So I put that name in, and it come up Muiaio Casalamante. Well, he was from Muiaio. So we come, and nobody in Milan knew where it was, but we had a driver. He said, well, I know where Casalamante is. We'll go up there. And that way, and we ask around, and it's probably a small village. So on the way, just before we get to Casalamante, I see this little sign that says Muiaio, and I tap the driver, and I say, I think it's up here. So we come in this little sleepy village of about 200 people. It's beautiful. Mm-hmm. Has this 5-star restaurant of all places. And he says, let's go in here for lunch. And I'm excited. I'm thinking, maybe this is the place. I'm not sure. I wanted to see if I could find where my grandfather's mill was. Maybe there's a foundation left or something. So we go in, and he asks them in Italian, if there was a mill around. And this gentleman pulls out a photograph of my grandfather's mill, and it's just from the same angle as I had that my grandmother had given me from the 30s, but mine's in black and white. And I says, I had the keys to this mill. Tell him I had the keys to this mill. And the guy goes, it's real close. I'll call. Someone will take you down there. So we're eating lunch, and I can't believe that we found this place, and the mill's still here. And the next thing I know, this lady's asking me in Italian if these are my grandparents. And I turn around, and she's got pictures of my grandparents. And
holy cow.
Yeah, she says, you must come to my house for coffee. And so he says, she wants to go there. I said, yeah, well, so we finished lunch. As we walk in her house, go up the stairs and walk in her house, I look over, and on her walls, a picture of my mother, my uncle, my aunt. And she stuns me. She walks up to me, puts her arms around me. She says, welcome home. We've been waiting a long time for you to return home. This was your great-grandfather's house. This is the house your grandfather was born in. And
unbelievable.
Well, what's really unbelievable, I come back that spring and find out that the day we walked in, they were concerned about her because she was going around the village telling them, you know, the Americans come. No American had come into this town since my grandfather in 1960. And she's telling everybody, no, the Americans are coming. The Americans are coming. And I'm thinking, they're all thinking maybe she's had a little minor stroke or something.
Right.
So when I walked in that restaurant, that guy was stunned and knew to call people. And the day we walked in there was her birthday. So I don't know how all this stuff gets put together in some weird way, but you know, so I've been coming back ever since. And then about 5 years ago, we finally got a place we could purchase. And
what's it like, you know, coming from the United States to a little town in Italy with only 200 occupants? It's
been a great experience. You know, I went back to college, got an AA degree in Italian. I find out almost half this town are cousins. Are cousins of some sort, and so the culture has been just wonderful. I mean, especially me being a writer, Italians have a whole different perspective of artists and stuff. And this area in particular, Casalamante, are very famous for their clay and the ceramics. And so it's been a great joy. And I started an English speaking school here that's been really well received. We have 46 students every year, all ages, wanting to learn American English. We just opened up an art gallery here in this little town and they've moved the master classes. Melrose Philharmonic has moved their master classes up here for a week in the fall because this village being so small that after class there's nowhere for the students to go. Everybody goes up to this restaurant, hangs around, drinks wine, and talks.
That works for me too.
Yeah, and talks technique and stuff way into the night, and so it's been just wonderful.
Gary, we have to cut this short. My producers were just telling me because of the events that are happening in Florida with the Hurricane Ian.
Yes.
So I want to thank you so much for joining us. Let our listeners know where they can find out more about you and get your books.
Well, my website, www.gary@garysmithauthor.com is probably the easiest place. All my books are there. There's some short stories they can download for free, a few videos, more in-depth bio, that kind of stuff. So,
Gary, thank you so much for joining us. I apologize for cutting this so short, but we do have to honor
thank you for having me, and it's been a joy. So
take care of yourself, and I hope to have you back on the show in the future so we can make up for the second half hour that we missed.
Anytime.
Take care of yourself, Gary.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. Exonation, Gary Smith was our guest, and we do have to cut this show a half hour short because of the breaking news coming out of Florida, because of the intensity and the damage that is being done to Florida by the Hurricane Ian. I'll be back tomorrow night at 10 o'clock as once again we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. To my producer here in the studio, Craig West, our programming director, Mac Alexander, and of course, my senior executive producer, my wife and my best friend, Laura Rogers, and from yours truly, Rob McConnell. Until tomorrow night, X Zone Nation, always keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night, everyone.